Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Double Take with the Safety Brothers. I'm Alex Safety, here with my brother John, coming at you from a beautiful sunny day in Chestnut Hill, and we are flying high as some Miami Heat fans. John,
The Godfather strikes again.
The Godfather strikes again. The Miami Heat won the NBA trade deadline.
Just like last year.
Which we're going to get into throughout the show. Just give you a quick rundown. We're going to talk about the Heat, of course. We're going to talk about what the heck happened with Kyle Lowry. We're going to talk about all Orlando Magic shipping out all their assets and clearly going for a nice tank towards the end of the season. And a few under-the-radar moves as well. But, John, let's start it off with, we always say this is a Miami Heat podcast. Who won the NBA trade deadline and why?
Listen, all you need to do is go to Twitter, go to Bleacher Report, ESPN, anywhere. They're all saying the Miami Heat did. And, for a while there, I didn't know. Right when we got Oladipo and Woj broke it and said, Lowry's officially staying. My heart did sink a little. I was happy we got Oladipo, but Lowry was like, I was keeping my eye on that prize, and I was like, Oladipo, forget Oladipo, whatever. He's coming over the summer anyway. I didn't think he would add as much value as Lowry, but now looking at it in terms of just the big picture, when you look at our depth chart, and the fact that we're also going to get LaMarcus Aldridge that we knew was going to happen because he just officially
Knock on wood. Don't jinx it now.
He did officially get bought out by the San Antonio Spurs. Right. But I was keeping my eye on the prize with Lowry. But now looking at the grand scheme of things, looking at our depth, we were going to have to give up Duncan, Nunn, Precious. Kelly would be in. I mean, we gave Kelly anyway, Kelly Olynyk. So now looking at, we're going to do all that for
Tyler
Lowry.
Hero, too. We might have to give up Tyler Hero. They wanted Hero.
Potentially. We weren't going to do that, though. He was untouchable. And that would be a dumb thing to do for Lowry, who's 35, not knowing if he was going to stay after one season. The fact that we got Oladipo for Avery Bradley, a dude who has not really done anything really in a Heat jersey. Kelly Olynyk, who was past his expiration date with this team, as much as we loved him and has had great moments for the Heat, past his expiration date, and a pick swap. So
we got Oladipo for nothing. It was a bag of chips. Shout out Avery Bradley. He did have some solid minutes for us in the very beginning of the regular season. Hasn't been able to stay healthy, and the COVID has been an issue. Kelly Olynyk has been a great shooter throughout his tenure with the Miami Heat. He's also been a very frustrating player to watch as a guy who would have never rebound or play defense when that's something you want your big man to do. But, John, I couldn't agree with you more. And today, just from my perspective, it was a roller coaster of emotions. I was in class. The exact time period where you would not want to be class if you're an NBA fan is when I was in class.
Me as
From
well.
1:30 to 2:45, and my professor is a guy who, since COVID, where everyone is on their screens all the time, we have all these Zoom classes. My class, luckily, it's in person. He's like, no computers in class because we're gonna detox from all our screens after all this terrible year of screen hell with COVID.
That's nice on most classes, except for today.
So I wasn't able to keep updated. But at the very end of class, I check on my phone. I have a million texts. I have a lot.
Did you think
updates.
Lowry would have been traded? I'd buy
100%
by 2:45.
Wait, so I get it, and we thought he could have been traded by noon, by 1:30, by whatever.
Yeah.
So I figure I'm gonna get out of class and I'm gonna know, all right, Lowry's definitely already gonna have been traded by now. It's either the Lakers or it's gonna be the Heat, because which team? The Sixers basically said we're gonna be out.
Once they traded for George Hill, you knew that was their point guard move. They were out on Lowry.
Yep.
The Lakers were still in there, needing to get something, while LeBron and Anthony Davis are going to miss the next few weeks. And adding that helps LeBron's title shot, which we can get to that in a second after you finish out.
I actually have strong thoughts on that. But, then I get into my next class at exactly 3 p.m. and no trade had happened. And the two things that I saw that was completely shocking. One, the Raptors keeping Lowry, and two, the Houston Rockets keeping Oladipo. Then in this class, I kind of sneak a little look at my phone, and I see that the Heat were acquiring Victor Oladipo. My first thing is oh my gosh, who do we trade? And it ends up being for, essentially, I'll say a bag of chips. We got Oladipo for a bag of chips.
The thing is, when the Woj bombs happen, he only sends the headliners, right? Or a Shams bomb.
Yeah.
So he says Victor Oladipo. That's when I knew. I was like, oh, there's not much in this.
It's not for Hero.
Because
or
because he could have said Duncan Robinson is on his way to Houston. He didn't. It wasn't Oladipo for Duncan Robinson trade between no, it didn't happen. That's why once I saw Oladipo was just the one line tweet. It was Oladipo to Miami per sources. We knew you weren't giving up much.
I'm sitting there in class and I'm like, what? Who do you... I was like, no, there's no way we would have given up Duncan. There's definitely no way we would have given up Tyler. I was thinking maybe Kendrick Nunn. And the fact that I looked after class and I see we kept those three guys It's big time.
Oh,
it's big time because now, and you look at Oladipo, it's like, all right, John, that's the other question with this trade. What can he really give us? And since basically I think was it his, I don't know if it was an ACL tear a few years ago. Here it is, his knee or his leg. Forget what's
2019.
2019. He has an All-Star season. The following season, playing very well again in Indiana.
He was voted an All-Star before he got injured.
That's right. Then he goes down. He's injured, and since then he hasn't really been the same guy. But I think if there's any team that can make the most of him and help him turn this around, it's the Miami Heat. Which, John, do you have some of his stats for this year? What are his stats?
Yeah, so I do. I mean, I just looked it up right away because I have not paid too much attention, especially since the Rockets have been on their little 20-game losing streak.
They broke against the Toronto Raptors.
But yeah, off the bat, I was like, people on Twitter are like, yeah, like Oladipo was just tanking his trade value just so he could get put on the team that he wanted to. So I was looking at it. So he's about to come onto his third team this season. In his 9 games with Indiana, he averaged 20 points. He shot 47% for twos, and he shot 36% for threes.
That's not bad.
Like shooting well.
Average 3-point shooting.
Yeah, and then defensively, 1.7 steals. He's still playing.
Well, he's a guy who he can defend, And at the end of the day, what I think we're gonna get in him, he's one more guy who can score the basketball, and he's a guy he's a better defensive guard that we have than either the Tyler Hero option. And, Avery Bradley, of course, was our best guard defender, but he hadn't been healthy. So I'm glad that we got Oladipo. There's a lot of upside potential in this trade.
Right,
and
but
like
so let me read
really
his Houston stats first, though,
okay.
too. So then with Houston, he got his points per game up 1 point, so 21 points. So very similar.
It's pretty much
his 3-point shooting. This was in 20 games as opposed to 9 games with Indiana. So this is kind of coming out to the average. But on the season, he's shooting 33% from 3. Hopefully that can be a little better. But again, him slotting in, we do have our shooters, and I know that Spo's gonna figure it out. He's gonna throw a lot of different lineups out there. But one thing I'm hoping to see is he will take the defensive pressure off guys like Gorn, off guys like Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, and they can kind of come more into their own. And with Hero, I think it was a little bit too much too soon for him, right? He was the baby GOAT. He's literally a rookie deemed baby GOAT. What does GOAT mean? Greatest of all time? Like, I'm like on board with that nickname because I'm a Heat fan, but it's a lot for a guy who's 19, or he was 19, then turns 20 during the bubble, and now he's 21 this season. So he's 21 years old. There's a rap song about him. Like, the sophomore slump is a real thing. Yeah. Like just in statistics, like you see there's that regression a little bit, and it's with whether it's quarterbacks in the NFL, they figure you out after your rookie season a little bit. There's more scouting on you. It's similar here. He's going through that slump, so I hope he could come back into his like 6-man role. Him and Dragic being off the bench, Oladipo being a strong punch. So
what do you think our starting lineup should be then?
So I would probably
go Oladipo and Jimmy in the backcourt with Duncan. Then maybe you have.
Really? Wait, so you don't put a point guard in there? I don't.
No. Oh, you're saying none?
I think none or Dragic as a point guard because
it'll be Dragic then.
Because I don't know if I want to have Jimmy or Oladipo at point. I mean, we'll see. And I know Spo.
I think
anything's on the table.
Jimmy can run point. Oladipo can run point. I mean, that's the benefit. You can have, if you want to, you can have a big lineup where you have those two. You have Duncan Robinson, you have Bam, and then maybe if we can get LaMarcus Aldridge, or if not LaMarcus Aldridge,
it's in the bag.
If not, then we'll be throwing Trevor Ariza, who hopefully he can get back into shape, and he's a good 3-and-D guy that we can have.
For
sure.
But
I do like all the moves we made, and we haven't even talked about really, we traded the first trade that we made today for Bjelica, whatever you want to call this guy's name. The guy that we can't pronounce his name, from Sacramento, who's a big man. He's a good offense. He's not a great defensive player, but he's going to give us a little bit more size than we had prior with just
shooting.
Yeah, and some shooting too. So
replaces like the Myers Leonard or Kelly Olynyk role, whatever it is, whatever it is, like. Totally happy, stoked. Like, I think we should be happier than any other team is right now. But with that, I do want to move on to the Raptors and the Lakers, I guess. So why don't you start with the Raptors, Alex? So Raptors kept Kyle Lowry. What does this mean? What is their thought process? There's things you got to prioritize. Like, it's if we're trading Hero for Harden, it would have been like Harden win now. Kept Hero instead. We're prioritizing the future, right? That there's trade-offs in it.
Yeah.
What was the trade-off that the Raptors made here with keeping Lowry versus not trading?
Well, here's what I'll tell you. As soon this dates back even until this is like about 2 years ago almost. As soon as they win the championship and then Kawhi leaves in free agency, at that point they had a decision. Are we gonna tank because we don't have Kawhi? We can't really compete for a championship, or do we keep this together and try to make the best of it? And what they did is they did the latter option, and they impressed a lot of people. They played a tough 7 games versus Boston, who Boston ultimately lost in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Miami Heat, of course. But that was a very showing series, and it was a telling series about, like, they had hard, they wanted to keep it together. It was a respectable title defense, is what I'll call it. But what ends up happening, they lose some other pieces last offseason, and then you get to this season where it's pretty much hasn't been a disaster throughout, but they started very poorly, got it together a little bit, and then they just lost like 8 straight games. Kyle Lowry, his name has been in trade rumors all year long because he's going to be a free agent. And so I think for them, this season, and now they're also the COVID thing, so they're in Tampa, they're not even in Toronto. So this whole season, I would say overall now, it's just kind of been a disaster for them. And the one thing was like, listen, Lowry's probably going to leave in free agency because he wants to get on another contender before he retires. Like, all right, we'll get to send him somewhere. Maybe we'll get some assets in return. And what ends up happening, they don't make the trade. The trade never happens. It gets to 3 p.m. and they didn't like the offers they were getting, which there's 2 points of this, John. There's the, do they have leverage or do the teams have leverage? And I think they're playing from a point of, we have the leverage. We have Kyle Lowry. We have the asset. You guys want him. Hey, LA, Philadelphia, Miami, you guys all want him. Like, who's going to give us the best offer? And what ultimately happened is the Sixers say goodbye, and then neither Miami or LA wanted to either offer their young assets in Tyler Hero or Talen Horton-Tucker, which I'm glad the Miami Heat did not trade Tyler Hero. I've been a guy who's, I've been wanting Hero. I wouldn't even necessarily have traded him for maybe Harden or Beal because I really believe in him and I like his upside. But I definitely wouldn't have traded him for Kyle Lowry. On the Lakers side of things, John, Talen Horton-Tucker is a free agent this summer. He's getting like $1 million a year this year. They're gonna. You think so? That's what I think. I don't think they're gonna pay him. Which is, I'm shocked that you would rather have Talen Horton-Tucker for the rest of this season than Kyle Lowry for the rest of the season.
So that's a good segue. So just to get to the Lakers. So like you said with the Raptors, makes no sense. They should have traded him because he's gonna leave and free. He's an unrestricted free agent this summer. So they could have traded him and gotten a return on that. Or now this summer he's gonna leave them and they can't get anything back. With the Lakers aspect of it, I think this is going to be like a little, in LeBron's career arc, whatever his career ends up being, he'll probably surpass Kareem. He'll end up with at least 4 rings, maybe 5, maybe 6, whatever. Maybe, who knows, maybe 7, as like Nick Wright was. Nick Wright thinks it's 7.
Nick Wright's
But we're going to look back at this, I think, and this day today changed the arc. It changed the trajectory.
Really?
Because if the Lakers get Kyle Lowry, to me, that's guaranteed 5th championship for LeBron.
Wow.
Okay? And now you're saying he's 35. Yes, just like LeBron's 36. Now you're saying you can bring him back for 1 more year, and you can get, who knows, you can always get the guys like Trevor Ariza, like the Heat just got, like the veteran dudes to piece together the team around that big 3, and you can make that run at number 6 for LeBron. And I'm not going to talk about number 7 because that's too far in the future. The league moves way too, quickly.
I don't think Lowry would have even guaranteed them a ring, though.
Let me explain. This year, okay, so right now, it's been a while since our last pod, but since then, just from me, like seeing how Blake looked, seeing how the Nets how Kyrie and Harden have continued that chemistry, and all while Katie's been out, they're definitely... Right now, with the Lakers' injuries, with LeBron out, with AD out, and the Lakers...
Yeah, they're favorites right now.
Oh, the Nets are favorites. But it's scary because now the Lakers potentially won't have home court for an entire playoffs, okay?
Yes, because they're going to...
Bill Simmons mentioned this. LeBron said he had the 2 toughest titles to win with coming back from down 3-1 against a 73-9 Warriors team, and then doing it in the NBA bubble with no fans in the,
in Orlando
hotel, during a pandemic.
Bed, all that.
Yeah. 2 hardest... Bill Simmons is like, this might be the hardest ever if they have to do it without any home court throughout the entire playoffs. So if the Lakers don't get at least, 4 seed would get them home court in the first round, but ideally they're a top 2 seed. Okay.
But here's the thing: is
let me finish. So ideally top 2 seed. Lowry coming to them would save them keep them afloat for those few weeks that AD and LeBron are going to be out. And now you're going up. You can run through anyone in the West, whether it's Utah, Phoenix, Denver, these more cohesive team units, but you have the star power with LeBron James, with Anthony Davis,
absolutely.
And Kyle Lowry doing all the other intangible things that don't show up on the stat sheet. But like last night, he had, 8 or 9 points, but he was plus 42 in the plus minus.
They blew out Denver.
And they blew out Denver. So that was going to be his last game as a Raptor. Whatever. So he was going to be that guy for him. And look at those 3 as a matchup against Kyrie, Kevin Durant, and James Harden. there's no better big three in terms of like offense, defense. You know, offensively, you could argue that Kyrie, Harden, and KD are a better big three. But all around, I'm saying AD, Lowry, and LeBron, those three will match up nicely defensively as the core of that Lakers team. And again, we know like defense wins championships. So I think as good as the offense is, they're going to be throwing lobs to Blake and to what's the guy's name, Claxton, who's he just has so many dunks
out of nowhere.
I watched highlights from a game against the Wizards the other night. It seemed like he had 7 dunks in one. So that versus Joe Harris and Bruce Brown as the role players, like the Nets they have their title team together. They have their like 8, 9, 10 guys there.
Well,
with the stars, with the glue guys. I'm saying Lowry to the Lakers would have done that for the Lakers.
Here's what I think, John. I think Lowry for the Lakers doesn't guarantee them a victory over the Nets. I do think that with what the Lakers have now, the only team I'm still pretty afraid of if I'm the Lakers, if they can get healthy, that's a big X factor. If Davis and LeBron aren't healthy, I don't really think they have a chance against anyone. If they're healthy, the only team that I really think can maybe beat them are the Clippers. What? And that's the Clippers' best case scenario.
I thought you were gonna say like the Bucks.
Oh no, I'm talking about the West. In the West. Once you get to the NBA Finals,
Clippers have a
I
shot.
do think. Okay, well then.
Clippers can.
But then I would say, how much does home court really matter? I would say it doesn't matter that much if LeBron and Davis are healthy. But
Utah.
The other factor I was gonna say, John, is about the Nets, and I guess it's a little off topic.
Phoenix is clicking too. I don't know. Home court.
I take LeBron and Davis over.
If fans are gonna be there, Alex, June. Are fans gonna be around July? Actually,
Utah. That's a big factor for Utah then. But
yeah.
Anyway, the other thing too, John, is I don't know how good it is now. How like that the Nets are missing. Katie's missing all this time, and then he's gonna come back. Will he be? What shape will he be in?
He's gonna slot
the chemistry.
Right in. He's gonna.
I'm just saying
right
it's
in.
At least a question. And right now the Bucks are rolling. Who you've been giving me shit for all year long because I picked them to make it out of the East. And right now I think the Bucks. I think they're gonna be able to beat the Nets.
Giannis is on his way to being the other player in NBA history other than Larry Bird to be the MVP now that Joel Embiid and LeBron are out. But don't give me that KD's missing time now. LeBron and Anthony Davis are missing time. So that's what my concern is. I'm saying, put a gun to my head and say, which team right now on March 25th, 2021, which team, gun to your head, are you like, all right, I think they're the guarantee to get to the finals. Maybe not win.
The answer is neither.
The Nets have the best shot right now.
I'd honestly just bet on like the Bucks or the Heat or something.
Oh, no, man. So we can move on. That's, my biggest takeaway from this trade deadline. But why don't we touch on some of the other big trades, Alex? Orlando, they were huge sellers of the trade line. They got rid of Fournier, Aaron Gordon, and Vucevic. Do you want to touch on what that means for the Chicago Bulls now? Maybe the landscape of the Eastern Conference now that the Bulls have Zach LaVine paired with, probably one of the best like scoring big men right now. I want to say like offensively, not putting him up there with I'm not gonna put him up there with Davis, Embiid, or with Jokic, but right behind Vucevic.
Well, he's certainly a very productive player. He was named an All-Star this year, and whether we want to agree with it or disagree, he is a very high caliber player on the offensive end. The Bulls are a team who had kind of just like their young assets, and LaVine had hit, and Kobe White plays a lot, and then they had their the guy they just drafted, Patrick Williams, but the other guys didn't like make too much sense, and they were still winning games. So now when I look at the Eastern Conference standings, you have in my opinion, the top 4 teams are the Sixers, the Bucks, the Nets, and then the Hornets are ahead of the Heat right now, but I think the Heat are the 4th best team. Yeah. Then other teams that are going to probably make the playoffs, we have the Hornets, Knicks, Hawks, and Celtics, and then Pacers. But then the 2 guys at the 9 and the 10 seed are the Pacers and the Bulls. So those 2 teams are in the play-in, and now adding Nick Vucevic, like if you actually look at from the 4 seed, the Hornets are 22 and 21, down to the 10 seed, the Bulls are 19 and 24. That's essentially that's a difference of 3 losses. Mm-hmm. So now you have a guy who is an all-star caliber player with Zach LaVine, with a good coach in Billy Donovan, and those guys are hungry. They want to make it at the very least. Let's say they stay at 10, stay at 9, maybe. That's going to be a very fun plan. And the Eastern Conference playoffs, while a lot of people probably look at these teams and like, wow, there's like 5 or 6 teams that are like right around 500. I still think those teams it's going to be a lot of fun once we get into the playoffs. But that's why that's actually, honestly, probably a very underrated splash by the end of the day that they got. You could argue that Vucevic was the best player that got traded.
Oh, he was. Yeah, I would say so. And I would think that trade probably has a big enough impact on the East. Just looking at like the teams that they could kind of leapfrog, they're gonna stay above the Raptors. The Bulls are at the 10 spot. They're gonna jump the Pacers, who are at 9. The Celtics. I mean, after today, what do they have to show? They got rid of Tice.
No, actually, and Fournier will be. It's a good ad.
But I don't know
how losing Tice does anything.
Listen, Fournier is not a savior though. He's not. They have a systemic issue right now. They need to figure out their offense. They need to figure out.
I don't know
Kemba
if any player could have saved
Marcus Smart.
Yeah, it's about the Kemba health. It's about
apparently
leadership.
Tristan Thompson's he's a disgruntled veteran now. And
something I heard from this was on the Mismatch. We love that Ringer NBA pod. And Verno was saying that something he's been hearing in the league is like that. Like the reason Tristan keeps being out of the lineup is because of the COVID protocol. It's not because he's actually getting COVID or getting even contact traced. It's just because he keeps breaking the protocol, which he keeps going out and partying or clubbing or doing whatever.
He's going out in Boston.
And he's seeing all these people, so maybe not Boston, but he's seeing people or he's breaking the protocol, so he keeps being out of the lineup. So you have that problem. You have no veterans in the locker room. You have no real leaders. Your best guys are Tatum and Brown, who are extremely young. You have Smart, who probably feels like he's a veteran, but he's also there's a problem there with the talent level versus the actual what he actually brings as far as leadership. So the Celtics do have a bigger problem. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Bulls jumped them in the standings, but I don't really expect that. But at the same time, at the very least, the Bulls are going to be very competitive, and they're going to be a fun team to watch in the NBA playing game.
Tell me who the top 6... Okay, so we already talked about the top 4 in the East, but who are going to be 5 and 6 by the end of the season? Because the Hornets are going to drop a little bit after losing LaMelo, who is a double take fan favorite, and he did make it to my wall, along with Luka. I got Giannis up here. Those are the 3.
He's probably the worst.
Those are the 3 non-Heat players that are on my wall.
But anyway, John, I actually think there's a big drop because you look at most people would probably say Sixers, Bucks, Nets, and there's a big drop off. I mean, as far as the record, there is a solid 6 to 7 game drop off. But I think the Heat and what happened in the beginning of the season with COVID, that's why our record. I think we're a better team. Today alone means we're a better team than our record shows, and we'll see if we can get LaMarcus Aldridge. That'd be even bigger deal. But I think those 4 teams, I think there's a big drop off after. I don't really care. And the reason, when I look on paper, I would say it should be the Celtics right there, number 5. It should be probably out. I mean, I really like the Pacers roster, but they haven't been able to have success this year.
I'm not saying on paper. Who's it going to be? 5 and 6 don't have to be.
It doesn't matter. I mean, right?
7 through 10 have a play-in.
It could be the Knicks, but to me, the Knicks are irrelevant if they're a 5, 6, or 7 seed.
All right, you're just not answering my question. That's no fun. I'm asking you, who's going to be 5 and 6? What's your prediction?
It could be anyone. They all have the same record. It could be the Chicago Bulls.
My picks are going to be right now the Celtics and the Bulls to answer the question.
Okay.
Unlike you,
you just said this. You just said the Celtics have the biggest, if it's a systemic issue. And you're predicting that they're going to get all their stuff together. You just said Evan Fournier is not
He's not a savior, but I do think that they're going to turn it around by then because I do trust them more than the Knicks and the Hawks for now.
Well, I think that they're talent-wise. I already said it. The talent-wise, they should be there, but I don't believe that they're necessarily going to do that just because, like you said, I think they have big, deep-rooted issues in their team. Anyway, we did not touch upon the Denver Nuggets winning on the Aaron Gordon sweepstakes. There was many teams that wanted him, including the Boston Celtics, including the Portland Trailblazers, who, our friend Max, we were texting Max, he's a big Celtics fan. He's like, I don't want Aaron Gordon. He's got a bad attitude. He thinks he's better than he is. Which, Max, there's a lot of players in the NBA that Max doesn't like. But I was telling Max, Max, come playoff time, Aaron Gordon is going to make an impact on a team. He's a guy, if you've been in Orlando for the entirety of your career and you have, some semblance of talent or skill, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt on your first team that you're going to, especially if it's a playoff team with a good coach, so a few really good players, and a star player like Jokic. He's athletic. He plays defense. I think he's a guy who's definitely going to excel by playing with a guy of the high IQ of Nikola Jokic. So I actually really like that trade for Denver. And with on the Orlando side of things, it sounds they were just emptying the cupboard.
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at right now at the Western Conference, the Jazz are still in that number 1 spot. Then the Suns, Clippers, Lakers, then Nuggets. I do like the Nuggets to get in the mix with the Jazz and the Suns as the teams would not really like the LeBron, not Lakers, Clippers. I guess Clippers are kind of that, but to me they're more just top heavy. The Nuggets to me are just this team, top to bottom, that I trust, more as a system with a coach, with the unselfish star of Jokic. to be in that mix of a fun, just like I would say well-rounded, deep team.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just with the right glue guys in there, I like the way they all balance each other out. With Murray, came out of his slump that he started the season in. Jokic is also going to be in the MVP conversation towards coming into the end of the season. Him and Giannis, I would say, are probably the top two guys, with Embiid going to be missing time, and with LeBron missing time. So yeah, I really do like this move for Denver, and they're going to be a fun team in the Western Conference playoffs.
An under the radar move that happened, I think, John, is we saw Portland miss out on Gordon, but they got Norman Powell for Gary Trent Jr. Who Gary Trent Jr. My first impressions of him were like last year in the bubble, where he was shooting lights out. He was playing incredible with Damian Lillard, and that first round series against the Lakers. Even though he couldn't play much defense against LeBron, but he's a very good 3-and-D player. This year hasn't been as good, which has been a trend for a lot of these bubble breakout guys. But anyway, they traded him for Norman Powell, and Norman Powell I think is a very underrated player. This is something I saw that Kirk Goldsberry posted on Twitter, which is that out of 64 NBA players that have tried at least 200 threes this season, Norman Powell ranks third in three-point percentage. He's only behind Joe Ingles and Joe Harris at 44%
so
on
the
270. Yeah, the Joes
are shooting.
He's
well.
right behind the sniper Joes, but he's shooting 44% from beyond the arc. That's incredible. And he is also a guy who plays defense. He's a high energy guy. He's going to be very good for Portland, and especially they're another team who's they were buyers on the market trying to improve and trying to that West. Same with the East.
West.
The West is very tight.
The West is so
which is
brutal.
a little better.
I mean, you just go down a list. Like the Jazz and Suns are at the top. Clippers just made a move. They got Rondo. We can touch on that in a second. The Lakers, I mean, they're going to free fall. They're the one team I see free falling. Nuggets going up after the trade deadline. Trailblazers going up after the trade deadline. The 7-seeded Mavericks going up. They just traded for JJ Redick,
and they've been getting their stuff together anyway.
They're proving that they did miss the shooting of Seth Curry.
Yeah.
Now they're like, all right, we need to find a shooter to put next to Luka. Mm-hmm. So, and then you go down the list. I mean, then it's Spurs. They'll probably fall a little bit. They'll stay a little bit in that mix. And then you go down Grizzlies, Warriors, Pelicans. The West is just so brutal. Especially comparing it to the East. I mean, there's all those teams that are 500 in the mix, but the West is tough.
I actually think that's more fun, John, to look at the West and say who are the 9 and 10, or who are the 8 through 10 seeds going to be, or 8 through who makes the play-in? Yeah, so who's the 7 through 10 going to be? Who are the play-in games?
I'm kind of trying to speak this into existence. No disrespect to the Spurs, but the Spurs, I'm hoping they drop out of the 8, and I hope that 7 to 10 is Dallas, Memphis, Golden State, and New Orleans. Those 4. Right now, 3 out of 4 of those are there. I'm just basically hoping that the New Orleans Pelicans get in and the Spurs are out. That would be a lot of fun. I did have the Mavericks as my Western Conference Finals pick to lose to the Lakers preseason. Of course, they haven't gotten off. They didn't get off on the right foot. They're a 7. I just don't see them taking the leap over the Blazers and Nuggets. And then Lakers, Clippers, Suns, Jazz. Those are really, to me, are a solidified top 6. But the Mavericks really aren't far behind. And if Luka gets on a run here, he'll get his name in the MVP conversation.
And something you see is like any 10-game or 8-game stretch has been super important for every NBA team. I'm looking at the Warriors now, and the Warriors, not too long ago were like a 7 and 8 seed. Now they're down to 10. The last 10 games, they're 3 and 7. You look at we can look at the Pelicans, and because we want them to get in, because of course they have Zion and Brandon Ingram, they're like a more fun team. But the Kings are only a game behind them, and so are the OKC Thunder. Which OKC Thunder, today they got some more stock. Or excuse me, they added to their stockpile of draft picks, and they have 34 picks over the next 7 years. But they're still a team who this year they could make a run at that 10 seed. SGA is going to be out of the lineup for a while, so I'm assuming this is the point of the season where they actually start to lose games and join the Rockets and Timberwolves as like teams who have just completely given up on the playoffs. But that's why I really do like the play-in games, because it's not even that you have to be in the 8 seed to make the playoffs. It's not like, can we get close to the 10 seed and then we're in it. So I would say, John, the Kings. Don't sleep on the Kings, because I know we want to look at the Pelicans and be like, they'll probably make it.
We want to see Zion. Yeah, we want to see Lonzo in there.
The Kings have some fun players too, though. So I'd love to see the Kings in the play-in game. But those 4 teams that you said definitely the most fun. So
just wrapping it up, Alex, the key takeaways from today. What's the Heat's ceiling, or any team we mentioned? Like, how much is their ceiling advanced? I think the Heat's ceiling has easily been the team that ceiling has gone up the most. But where do you have the Heat ended
up
this
season? The only thing that would make this better, John, is if we weren't currently on a 4-game losing streak. But we that was following our, I don't even know what it was. We had been like
we won 10 of 11.
We won 10 of 11. So we got really hot. Now we had a few games where after a road trip we got tired. Dropped a few games at home, whatever. And now we come back. We're gonna have new energy. Hopefully, I have Oladipo, dude. His ceiling is very high. And I think if you can end up with a lineup. I mean, that's the other question is what lineup will it be in the end? And it's like you can go with Dragic, Oladipo, Butler, and if you want to go small, you can go with Duncan and then Bam. Or maybe you want more defense, throw in Ariza. If we get LaMarcus Aldridge,
we got Iggy too.
How good? And there's some really big defensive lineups. I think we're a very versatile team. And right now, what I'm seeing from the Heat is I think we have a very good, as far as the roster. It's to make up a roster that can do a lot of the things that we saw us do so well in the bubble. So I'm, very excited for the playoffs. I guess this is a little off talk, but I'm still very impressed with my Eastern Conference champion prediction, the Bucks. They've been really good. They've won 8 straight games. Giannis, Middleton, Drew Holiday. Even when Giannis, I looked the other day.
Holiday being back, has been.
Holiday's been great, and even when the other night Giannis scored only 14 or 15 points, but they still won, and it's because when you have Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, Giannis doesn't need to do every single thing on the court for this team.
Listen, they're only a game and a half right now behind the 1 seed, the Sixers in the Eastern Conference, who just lost Joel Embiid. If they have that 1 seed, I mean, people don't want to pick Giannis to win that 3rd straight MVP, but that is why I put him. I know, everyone else, betting on LeBron, it's just how many times in the past few years have we really seen LeBron season like that? We always talk him into the conversation, but he's never really there. I mean, Harden was going to get traded, so he wasn't in it the same way. I didn't know Embiid was going to be there, who ended up getting hurt. So I think that's why I kind of went with the safe pick. I know, and I didn't want to, zig with everybody else going with Luka, who I did think they were going to be good this season, but they haven't been. So
then winners, I guess just winners of the trade deadline. I'm going to go Heat, Nuggets, and then loser probably Lakers and Raptors, right?
The Lakers I think are. I mean I can't say that. I would say forget Lakers, LeBron, because like I said, we're going to look at this point, and this would have changed.
I disagree with that.
If Kyle Lowry became a Laker today, I would be saying right now on this podcast, if a couple hours he got traded to the Lakers, I would be saying right now that the GOAT debate just got decided by Kyle Lowry choosing.
Bruh.
Because coming into
you can't say that though until they actually would have won it. What if they didn't get healthy? You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so if they stay injured, no. But I'm not. We could sit here all day and we would never have any arguments to be had because what if they get injured? So I'm saying if they stayed healthy, LeBron, Kyle Lowry, and Anthony Davis with that Lakers team and coming off of winning the title and getting some extra roster improvements and in the system. I mean, it's LeBron James. Once you get him into the playoffs, he's gonna be there. So
I think actually a reason that they're falling apart right now without him and Davis in the lineup is Dennis Schroeder and Montrezl Harrell aren't doing as well without those guys on the court as we thought they would. I thought that was the biggest benefit of adding those two guys.
Just run the pick and roll.
Exactly, run the pick and roll, and they can carry the offense for minutes at a time or maybe games at a time throughout the course of a season. Without LeBron and Davis, but they haven't been able to do that. So, they've lost 3 straight games, and I don't think they're going to be winning anytime soon until LeBron and Davis get back.
Which
is like a month away.
But like I said, right now, they're only 2 games up at the 4 seed. So if they, 2 losses from now, they're going to be a 5 seed, and they're going to continue to fall. And I'm not predicting they're going to be in the play-in tournament. Imagine LeBron in the play-in tournament. But it's not inconceivable to think if they miss a few weeks. LeBron is superhuman.
LeBron's out for 4 to 6 weeks. Davis, and they got to be
superhuman. So
guys.
Who knows?
Honestly,
with LeBron, it's probably closer to only a month.
I guess that's the benefit of it is they could fall apart and they could get to the 10 seed and they'd still honestly those would be stealth like NBA championship odds. Imagine LeBron in the 10 seed, he'd be he'd probably still be top 6 favorite team.
It'd be plus 1,000. It would be high.
Probably.
1,000, 2,000. Because think about it, they have to win 2 games if they're the 10 seed. 2 games against the Grizzlies, the Warriors, the Mavericks, or whoever it is, the Spurs or the Pelicans. Then after those 2 games, guess what they're rewarded with?
Playing But then you played Utah.
They're
or
going
Phoenix,
up against Utah in the first round.
I don't know about that.
Utah.
I still really like LeBron and Davis over those guys.
Oh my gosh, no.
But the thing,
that's only your first.
No,
round
but
matchup.
why does it have to be a progression? Like instead of it going, every team you play gets better. It's like you play the best team first. You get them out of the way.
No, it doesn't work like that because the difference
you're still
playing
playing.
when you're the 1 seed, you're playing one of the worst teams. They'd be starting off as an 8 seed. They'd be playing one of the best teams. The second round, the team's going to be also a really good team.
But here's what I would ask.
They're going to play the Clippers in the second round, and then in the conference finals, they're going to go up against the Suns or the
No, but here's
Nuggets.
the thing. I think when you look at the teams 1 through 6 in the West, to me they're all like relatively the same. I honestly think the Lakers and Clippers are the best teams. Like you look at the Jazz. Okay, the Jazz pick LeBron in a series with the Jazz, or LeBron in a series versus Damian Lillard in the Trailblazers.
Okay, so what you're telling me? So this is the difference, Alex. The difference is if they're a top 2 seed, they have an easy matchup in the first round.
Absolutely.
And then
it's
basically
one more series.
You're right. The next 2 rounds are difficult.
Yeah.
Probably just as difficult, but they're also they'd have home court in at least one of those rounds.
Yeah, agreed.
So, not looking good for the Lakers and LeBron. So right now, I think gun to your head, it's like I think the rational choice is like the Nets seem like they're gonna win it.
Rational choice is the Miami Heat, John. Actually,
now that's my emotional choice.
And the other thing too is I think with the Heat trying to get everything together at this point of the season, now that we can just move forward, we know this is the bunch that we got. Hero doesn't have to worry about getting traded. Duncan doesn't have to worry about getting traded. We don't have to worry about we're getting Lowry, we're not getting Lowry, all this stuff. This is the squad we got. Like, let's run through the finish line. So I'm really excited to see the final 20 games of basketball for the Heat, or more than 20.
It is analogous, I would say, to last season when Iggy came in. No one had really been healthy. Everyone kind of was missing time. Similar to this season, everyone's kind of missing time. We got our trade. We got the group we're running with. Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah, and one last thing about the Eastern playoffs. I kind of like where the Heat are because right now we're in the 4-5 matchup against the Hornets, who maybe it end up being the Knicks, maybe it ends up being the Hawks. I think any of those teams, we pump those teams. And then in the next round, right now, we'd play the Sixers, which we'll see if they're able to keep the 1 seed. And then the Bucks and the Nets in that second round will just beat each other up. And then once we beat, hopefully, the Sixers.
I mean, Sixers are tough. That was my preseason pick. They're really good.
Matchup too, but they're not healthy right now, so it's like.
I mean, you don't like them as much as the Bucks or Nets, but I like them equally. Yeah. I think they're still up there.
Yeah, sure.
Embiid, oh my god, I don't even want to think about going up against Embiid.
It'll be exciting to say the least, but it's been a very eventful day, a very fun NBA trade deadline. We will be coming at you more over the next few weeks. We're going to get a March Madness pod in. We definitely will. Probably with Eli, maybe before the Final Four, maybe before the Elite Eight. We'll see what happens. But stay tuned for more content from Double Take. It's been a go on. Thank you for listening.
Go Heat.
Peace.